Oh, hello. So I've been actually trying to get this done for a while, but I've been too busy doing other things, so I've forgotten about it. This is my attempt at a commentary for this film that I made back in 2009, which is around 12 years ago. Yes, it was 12 years ago. I just did the math by counting my fingers because I'm terrible at math. So, this film was something I made when I was right after my first year at film school. I was kind of at the peak, the peak of my existence, and I thought I could do anything. I was so excited, and I just wanted to make a film over the summer. So I wrote this script, and another big challenge I wanted to do was to try to write something that had a romantic element to it with a relationship, because I was back then, and unfortunately still am, trying to figure out how the whole relationship thing works. But making films in a way has been sort of like my thesis papers on what relationships and romantic things are, as I've just examined it throughout my life and pondered about it. And I write these films about it, trying to discertain what it all is. But this was the first film that really did that. Um, I remember really trying to. This film was me experimenting and trying to figure out how two people can get together and in the first place. To be honest, I still don't understand how that's possible. Yeah, we have the apps now, but they don't work for me unless I change to other countries. But back then, this is before the apps, and that was like the strangest thing for me. Like, how do people just meet up and like each other? Like, that's a thing that happens. How? And I was examining that and trying to understand that because I wanted to be able to live through that within this film. Define different as the title comes in right now. Ooh, yeah. I still don't know how it works, but that was what this film was. How do I get these two people to meet? How do they form a relationship? How does any of that work? And this is my friend Dom Pate, who ended up starring in it. And the thing is, he ended up hating the film, but nothing against him for hating the film because I hated it too when I finished it. I was so ashamed and embarrassed by it, and it was made even worse that he was ashamed and embarrassed by it also. So we both equally did not like this film, which is why hardly anybody saw it. I did one screening with the cast. Dom didn't show up. I don't blame him. And that was it. And I ended up cutting it down. The original length of this film was 70 minutes, I believe. I cut it down to a 35-minute version of it that I did screen at my college's sophomore year, second year, end of the year screening, where everyone screens their films. I screened a 35-minute version of this, and I ended up liking that version a lot better. So this cut you're actually watching now that's on YouTube is a combination of the 35-minute version and the feature-length version because I certain edits I did on the feature-length version was longer, and obviously cutting it down to 35 minutes, I did other things that I kind of liked better, but anyways, this is a film that really grew on me because I really was so embarrassed and ashamed by it. One of the big things I was ashamed of was my interpretation of how a relationship forms, which I don't know how believable this is, but back then I really didn't think I got it right. Um, and I don't think I'll ever be able to get it right, to be quite honest, because I don't know how it just happens. Apparently it just nowadays you have the apps, which makes it a lot easier. But back then, anyways, the other big thing that I was angry at myself about with this film was the cinematography. My previous film, my freshman year film at for film school, college, SVA, I did a short film that was around 20 minutes long. It's a pretty lengthy short film, but even nowadays, I'll look at that and I'm proud of how it looks. And I shot it on the same camera as this one, which was the Sony HVR Z5U. It was a HDV camera, so it takes mini DV tapes. and records in HDV, not full HD, but it's still higher resolution than 720p. It's more like I have no idea how it works, but it's HD on mini DV, and yeah, so I shot my short film on the same camera, and I went for this very bleach bypass style, which is this desaturated look. Think about Saving Private Ryan. They filmed that on film, and they use this bleach bypass process, which gave it this desaturated. Anyways, I was going for that with my previous short, and it looks great. And I watch it now, and I think it's still one of the best things I've shot. I was very proud of that, and I'm still, and I guess a sort of conceited way proud of it. I hate to admit it, but I am still proud of it. Besides the other issues that short film had, the way it looked was, I still think, is very nice. And I mean, I was getting compliments back in the day. I put the trailer of it on YouTube, and people were asking if I shot on film. And I loved that because I did not shoot on film. It was digital on an HTV camera. And also, they were asking if I used a lens adapter to give it a cinematic look, and I did not use a lens adapter. So there's a lot of I used to be good, is what I'm trying to say. I used to be better at doing this. Anyways, this film I was trying to go for the exact opposite, and I went for a very super saturated look. I was getting into lomography, which is those cheap plastic cameras that create these overly saturated, contrasty photos. And I was trying to replicate that within this film to be just this big, oversaturated thing to, of course, work along with the narrative as these two characters. They're supposed to be the title defined different. They're the misfit toys, the wallflowers, the introverts that are weird, and I wanted to represent that with the oversaturation. And as things get intense and as things change throughout the film, the quality of the lighting changes as well and gets more intense and more, imperfect. It was the whole imperfect look, so I let the highlights blow out and the blacks get crushed, and it was very contrasty and punchy, and got even more so when we get to the end. You'll see how overexposed everything gets, and it was on purpose, but when I was editing it, I realized, darn, I don't like this is too much, I went too far. But all that out of the way, so these are the two characters meeting. I haven't talked about the narrative yet. These two characters finally met, so that was my interpretation of how two people meet when they're about to start a relationship or some sort of relationship, whether it be a romantic one or a friendship one. These two, I think they follow more of a friendship relationship, but I was trying to make them follow a romantic one. But I still don't think I have the grasp on that. I like to say I've gotten slightly better over the years with my thesis paper movies of trying to contemplate and understand what it is, because I've never experienced it, and it hurts. It hurts a lot, so much. But that's why I make movies. That's what has filled in the emptiness, which unfortunately no longer fills it in as much anymore. But it's all I've got, and I'm really lucky, and I appreciate that. Anyways, so that was them meeting. Yay, they met. And notice this whole scene is in one continuous shot because Corey, who was Dom's friend over there, who was playing the guitar in the beginning of the scene, he always had limited time. I remember he was always had to be somewhere or something like that. I mean, nothing against that, obviously, it's fine. So I had to shoot all of the scenes with him in these really long takes like this, these single shots. And I think that's, at first I hated it because it felt it felt like it didn't match much of the rest of the film, and I mean, it totally matches the rest of the film now, but now that I look at it. But I think it was always an audio issue, because doing stuff like this, the audio in this film sucks so much, and it's because we didn't have an audio person. The microphone was on the camera, so doing shots like this where it's mostly, wides, all in one shot, the audio didn't pick everything up as well. I did an interesting thing in this film where I would hide a mini DV camera, a handy cam, in places to record as well, just to use as a microphone. I don't think we used it in that particular scene. And this scene is completely ripped off of the film Elephant. Elephant is a Gus Van Sant film. It is brilliant. It is an experimental film, I guess you'll call it, that is somewhat inspired by the Columbine shootings. I don't know how accurate it is to that, but it's about that and it's intense. And he has a lot of shots like this where the camera is just panning around the room with students talking about something. So, of course, I had to rip that off because I liked it. And you know what? Fine. I'm glad I ripped it off. Because that was the time to rip things off. I'm in film school. I still rip things off. I rip things off so much. I have zero amount of originality in me, let's be honest. But this was the TV studio in my high school, and this was when the teacher at the time, Mr. Reed, he was awesome. He was going through all of the old equipment in this TV studio that they had accumulating there since I don't know, the 80s. Yeah, he had Super 8 cameras, Super 8 projectors, 8 track 8 track cassette tapes and players. It was a museum. I remember Mr. Reed going through everything and he had them all on tables, getting rid of them. Now that I think back to it, I wish I took something. But I didn't. Because I was going to college and I figured they'd have stuff there. They'll have 8mm there. They did. They had one 8mm camera at my college, which I did use for my thesis film, but not for nothing else. I wish I had an 8mm camera now, but this was the TV studio, and the reason why I mentioned that because you could sort of see in the back, not here, but in the previous panning shot, you could see in the background a bunch of boxes on the table, which was all the random stuff that accumulated over the decades in this TV studio. I missed this TV studio. It was the best. So all these girls in this class was actually casted by my sister because they're all her friends, pretty much. So I have to give thanks to my sister for helping cast a lot of this film, as well as Sydney here, uh, who I think did a freaking fan. I think both Sydney here, her, did a freaking fantastic job, and my friend Don Page, both I think were great. Even though Dom was embarrassed by it, as well as I was embarrassed by the film itself when I first finished it. Now, all these years later, over a decade later, 12 years later, I could confidently say that I think they did a fantastic job, and hence why I'm doing this freaking commentary that who knows who's even going to listen to this. Probably nobody, but I guess I'm doing it for myself, mostly as therapy. Uh, I could watch this and thoroughly enjoy it, all its mistakes and imperfections, because I was trying something, and you know what? It's a product of its time, I could say now. Um, so with re-uploading this to YouTube, this particular shot here, I actually had to brighten up because it was a way darker originally. So I did a little bit of remastering to the film to make it a little more presentable. Uh, which is funny what I could do now that I didn't know how to do prior. I think I could have always brightened it up. I always knew how to do that, but I refused to do it because it was shot the way it was shot. I'm going to leave it that way. Screw that. No, we're brightening it. Granted, I super saturated everything anyways in post. Uh, and that previous shot too, with Sydney walking down the hall, was done with my tripod, using it as a Steadicam, which was a big thing I always used as a Steadicam. If I called it the tripod Steadicam. It pretty much functions as a real Steadicam, except it's not as expensive. And it's heavy. It's super heavy, of course, but you balance it out on the tripod and you walk backwards, and you gotta practice with it, but eventually you get to work, and it looks like a Steadicam shot. No one can tell the difference. So, and of course, this entire film was shot in my high school. Good old high school. Best of times, worst of times. That place. Uh, what was great since this was just 1 year after high school, after my first year of college, I knew a lot of teachers at this high school. I knew my TV teacher, Mr. Reed, and that allowed me access to the high school over the summer, which I completely am glad I took advantage of to shoot this film. Um, that was great. So now we're gonna have the second meeting. This is my whole thing. How do these characters meet? Like, do they become friends right away? How does that even happen? How do you make friends? It just happens, right? How do you form a relationship? I don't know. I figured we gotta get these two to meet up again. So here's their second meeting together when she drops her backpack and everything, is right when he's walking down. And there we go. And this is another one shot scene because of time constraints. And also, I think, actually, I'm not sure if we had time constraints with this. I think I was just lazy. I didn't want to do too many cuts because I didn't want to do different camera positions. And I didn't want to bother them and make them do more takes than they needed to. So we just shot this as one shot. Um, but and again, I did brighten up this scene before uploading it to YouTube, so this has been remastered in a way, uh, ever so slightly. But yes, this was I was trying to figure out how to get them together because I remember doing research on this on romantic comedies and all that, and you have to have the two traveling together and they're forced to be together in a way, which forces them and like that's the way people meet and get together, right? That I'll put that in the film. So they're walking home after school. They have to figure out how to get home. I mean, I guess they're gonna walk home together is what happens. So it's like, oh, bringing them together, force them to do something together. They're walking home together. Fantastic. And this whole bit where Dom forgets the guitar and leaves it there was completely his idea. Fantastic. I loved it. And her laugh that she does here, his little laugh, that was from a previous take. That was from a blooper, actually, of her laughing at Dom doing something stupid. I don't remember. Maybe it was just him forgetting a line or something, but that was a legit laugh. It wasn't acted. So I used the audio of that laugh and put it in there.
It's pretty stupid, I think.
I mean, no one's gonna notice, but it's a real laugh. Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh.
My mom wants me to do it, so I try to make her happy.
And this
My dad
shot
died two
took
years
us
ago.
forever because there was cars consistently driving down that
It's
road,
okay.
so we had to get
He died
lucky
from
and
cancer.
continue doing it
Yeah,
till
my
there
mom
wasn't
found out
cars.
she had
And you could
cancer,
kind of
so
tell Sydney in her right hand is holding a handy cam, and
we're
that is
moving to
what's picking
Seattle
up
in
their audio. We had no
six
lavs,
months,
we had no boom
and the
mic, we had
doctor
no
up there
boom
has
operator.
family there too,
We
so
had the microphone on the camera and the microphone and the
I guess
handy
that's why I
cam
like
that she
taking
was
pictures so
holding.
much.
That handy cam was picking up their audio. That's how we
It's a
did
good
it.
show for my life, I guess.
It works, right? Kind of. It's not the best audio, but you could hear
I don't
them.
know.
And
What's
we
with the
technically could have
guitar?
ADR'd this because we don't see their lips moving or anything. It's behind them the entire time. But I didn't do that. They're legit talking. Um, so now the next thing coming up, they're gonna be playing some music together. Ooh, that was obviously completely inspired by the film once, because I love that film. And back then, when I saw the film for the first time, it was so inspiring because of how low budget it was and how how big it got and all that. So I knew Sydney was able to play the guitar and Dom knew how to play the piano, so I really wanted to take advantage of that. So in doing so, I wrote a scene with where they play and the guitar and piano together. I mean, they just play it together. I was like, oh, they bond over music, universal language. Yeah. Um, I don't know. So that's why this exists, pretty much. Um, and yeah, so what do I have to say about this? Nothing else really. Oh, right. This film, what I appreciate about this film nowadays is I actually tried to follow a three-act structure with this film because I was doing research on romantic comedies and films of such, how they're structured. Actually, was because that's the thing. I didn't major in writing in film school. I majored in cinematography. So every film I wrote in college was I didn't think about a three-act structure or how that works. Sometimes I got lucky and it just worked out, and the characters had their arc and all that. You had the mid-act climax and blah 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 blah. But most of the time it didn't, and you could throw that off. I say it's experimental. Um, I learned my lesson with Minor Motion Picture. uh, I learned about it too late, and I had to edit that film to formulate some sort of three-act structure. This film, I actually was trying to do one. Um, I did the research. I wrote the script in a way I knew this had to happen at this point. Had to happen at that point, and I think that's why nowadays, 12 years later, when I come back to watch this, I like it because it works, sort of. I mean, it works better than a lot of my other older stuff because the characters do go through a change. They're both different, but they both accept it. It starts off with them nervous and scared and not really particularly liking being what they are, and it ends with them accepting it and forming this relationship with each other. And again, the ending of this film is my favorite, and I think that's why this film means so much to me. And even back then, when I hated this film, I was embarrassed by it. Didn't want to show anybody. I still loved the ending. I remember showing a friend of mine this film, the short version, the 35-minute version in college. A friend of mine who I actually had a crush on in college. I showed her the film, we watched it together, and the ending came, and she said, "I hate you." Because I hope you watch this before we listen to this commentary, because I'm about to spoil the ending. Actually, no, I'm not gonna spoil it. When we get there, you'll see. Hopefully you've watched it already, so you know what I'm talking about. But the ending means so much to me, and it still means so much to me, and I'm so happy with that. Anyway, this is them singing the song. But getting back to the three-act structure with this film, I think I stopped doing it after this film because of how much I hated this film. After I first finished it, I was just so embarrassed by it. Like, it's so cheesy, it's terrible, blah 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 blah. So talking about how embarrassed I was about this film and how embarrassed Dom Page was about it, I didn't show it to anybody for years, for decades actually, until now. I mean, now it's literally public. And I think a lot of it is, again, like I talked about how I appreciate it a lot more now, but also I feel Dom and Sadie both did a fantastic job. And Dom and I actually had a sort of falling out after this film. I remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to work with Dom again because how difficult he was. He was complaining about the script constantly and calling things cheesy and whatnot. He was absolutely right, by the way. And after I finished the film, I'm like, never again. I'm never working with him again. But a year later, I was working on my short film for my second year in college, where I was shooting on a 16 millimeter, and Dom came to help out on the crew, and we kind of had a heart to heart with each other and apologized to each other about about working on this film, and it was awesome. It was fantastic, and we worked together since. We did a lot of stuff back in 2017, bunch of short films, and short film that Dom wrote and helped produce, as well as his friend and my friend as well now, Gabe. But that's a different story. So I think he did a fantastic job in this, and I really want the world to see this now, and I want to show people it finally. I mean, I don't want it to just sit there and waste away. So this was another scene where I remember we did not have time to shoot this at all, so I just put the camera on a tripod and did everything in this wide shot. It doesn't cut. And I think it was hilarious because with Corey putting the weights on like that, that was his idea. He just did it during one of our rehearsals, and I was thinking, that is hilarious. Do that. I love it. But also the audio is terrible because, all the reverb and the mic was on the camera. I don't think I had the handy cam hidden anywhere here now because I only had one handy cam, so I couldn't pick up two people that well, especially in a wide shot like this. It'd be difficult to hide it somewhere. Um, but yeah, all one shot because of time, and I kind of like it because it's all one shot. To be honest, just simple, just two people talking, and I kind of like the production design as well. I mean, it looks like a basement with a gym. And we didn't do any production design. This is exactly how it looked. It's perfect. I think it's perfect. I like the way the walls are. um, This is a scene I was contemplating on deleting. Even on this upload to YouTube, I was thinking about getting rid of it because this is one of those random, pointless scenes. But it's just, again, writing issues. I mean, I had a 3 act structure in mind while I was writing this. I was trying to follow, but there were still scenes that were just thrown in there as vignettes. Because again, I didn't know how do you build up a relationship, so I was thinking more of it as vignettes with these two characters, showing them doing certain things and forming this relationship with each other while doing certain things. So this here was them pretty much studying for a test together, because don't we all do that with our friends? We study together. I never did. Maybe I did it in college a little bit, but in high school, I never studied with friends. I probably wouldn't be able. I hated studying. Oh my goodness, there's so many. I hated it. But that's what this scene was, and the idea was to just show them goofing off and kind of having this cinema verite moment of realism where they're just doing their thing. Blah 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 blah. Um, I think it might have happened already, but you could see the light shining behind Sydney at one point. Maybe it happened already. There's also obviously a scene where you can see a tripod in the background. That's classic of a student film. Um, and again, this is all one shot also. Because I think I didn't want to bother them too much by keeping them there. Uh, oh, also, I think I post stabilized this. Yeah, I did. And I cut it shorter. Right. So that scene isn't really as original as the original, but I did y'all a favor. You don't want to sit through that. I actually always liked this scene. This scene was them um, dancing. It's Sydney here forcing Dom to dance, and it's kind of like him getting him out of his shell. Uh, and I always liked how she's wearing the green shirt and he's wearing a red. So she's like green for go, red for no. And that previous shot, the cars behind her red also. And then the grass is green and it's very contrasty and colorful, all with that, super saturated, blown out, imperfect look. So like everything visually is perfect with this particular scene. And I didn't even tell Sydney to wear that. She just wore that, and Dom just happened to be wearing red. So you know what? There we go. It works. And this is a scene where both of them, I think, coined the term. Instead of calling the film Define Different, it's called Define Awkward, because they were dancing to no music during this. As I couldn't play music, they were talking in the scene. And also, I didn't know what song. I don't think I had an idea of what song I was going to use. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it. I did end up using that song. So they're dancing to nothing. They didn't even hear the song I was potentially going to use. So it could not have worked. But I think it works. It sounds like they're dancing to whatever they're here listening to, luckily. But they were dancing to nothing, which is very awkward. So, hence them calling the film Define Awkward, and I don't blame them. It was very awkward a lot of times like this. Um, but I like this scene. I like the way it turned out. It's and like Dom, you know, totally going for. He was so against doing all this also, but he totally killed it. Um, and we shot some because my camera had the ability to do this slow motion. The resolution lowers quite a bit and it becomes interlaced, but I could de-interlace it, which I did, and that's this awesome slow-mo, which is like 120 frames a second. I don't know, but my camera had the ability to do this, so I was taking advantage of it, and I only used it sparingly because of how low the quality drops when you go to it. So as you can tell, they're only close-ups mainly. That's slow motion. Um, but yeah, I always kind of like this scene. How they kind of they bonded over music and they're bonding over dancing around goofingly. That's not even a word. They're acting goofy dancing. But I think it was important for Dom's character as well as him breaking out, which is what I always felt like in a way in my attempts at analyzing what it is like to form a relationship or be in one. But yeah. And this particular thing, I think it shot this way because I didn't want to bother
Walk
them
me home.
by doing multiple shots. So how do we get them both in the same frame? But it's so tight.
It was.
You
It was
just
me.
film Dom in a reflection. Dom's in a reflection. That's how you get them
Don't
both
tell me
in
you
the
didn't
same
have fun.
shot while saving time. Um, oh, and I loved Sydney's blue eyes. I still do. I think I love blue eyes in general. So I had to do a bunch of close-ups with her eyes. This is the first one. There's two more afterwards. I got to take advantage of this. Really nice eyes. So let's film close-ups of her eyes. And now we have Dom running goofingly. Goofingly, that's the word now. Goofingly. Oh, goofy. Oh, gosh. Oh. But now this is the part where the characters at their peak, the highest that they've been. They're happy with each other. We're gonna have to throw in the mid-act climax, or where they get what they want, but suffer the consequences. So now we bring back our bully Jem. That was my friend's name who played. What was his name in the film? Jacob. Um, so he comes and he steals his journal, and now we have that moment. Um, he just walks behind them and suddenly has it. It's all one shot too, because I just wanted to get out of there. I don't want to be in high school anymore. Um, and this was during the summer, so it didn't matter what we did. So that paper art thing on the wall or whatever that is, we just tore it apart, which he does here, just because we could. There we go. He tears it apart. Oh, oh gosh. It's hilarious because there's no point in him doing that. This movie's freaking hilarious. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm having a good time doing this, apparently. So he runs into, full on momentum, can't make the turn, runs into the side of a wall, and he actually injured himself. That blood on his cheek is his real blood. If you look at his arm, he hit that pretty hard, and it started bleeding quite a bit, and I was really worried about it. And he was acting like he was really injured and kept on saying, "I think we need to go to the hospital," which gave me so much anxiety. Until I said, "I'm joking, I'm fine." So he continued to see him. I said, "Oh, this is perfect. If you're fine with it, take the blood and put it on your face." So that's real blood, and it's his real blood. So it's fine. It's his own blood. But yeah, oh, Jacob's away with his journal, and now he's alone. And I kind of like this shot too. Pulls back, it really shows his loneliness in the situation. A completely empty hall because obviously we filmed after school, and it was during the summer. Actually, we didn't just film after school. This was the summer, right? There wasn't school. No one was there unless there were some summer classes. So, Sydney actually scored this film, and you're hearing some of it right now. Yeah, that's all to say. She did a great job. I mean, what else? She scored the film. She did a fantastic job because she plays the guitar, obviously. So we were in my room and just had a mic next to the guitar, and she just played a bunch of stuff. Like, play some chords, strum it a little bit, and I would play her examples of other songs, and it's very minimal. I didn't use the score as often throughout the film. I remember Sydney saying how disappointed she was that I didn't. Um, but it was more of a really subtle thing. Uh, and here's the big scene where they're super angry with each other.
It's not
And I
okay.
think, and the thing is, what was great, what was great about this is Dom had to go home. I remember we didn't even start shooting the scene yet. We're planning it out, blocking it out, and he gets a call. No, he gets a text or something. I don't know, but he tells me he has to go home for dinner. I said, we didn't even shoot the scene yet. It's like, we gotta go. I have to go. So I said, we're shooting a scene. We're here. We're planning for it. We're shooting a scene. and we just went and shot it. And Dom was frustrated, obviously, but it was great because he brought his frustration to this scene, and this is him just pissed, and I think really pissed because of having to deal with this movie and you know just trying to get the scene over with. Oh, there's a tripod in the background. So I think this was this was real, and it's great, and I love it. Dumb, fantastic. Look at that vein popping out of his neck right there. Look at that. He just doesn't stop. Because I did have multiple shots planned for this, but we were so out of time. Like, let's do it in this one shot. Just scream at each other. And I think it's great. And the highlights are super blown out because that's supposed to be the style. Now everything's getting more intense. As you could tell, it's very high contrasty lomography look to it. It's really, I love it now. I look back at this film now. It's like, oh man, yes, I'm glad I did that choice. Back then, it was all, oh look how blown out her face is. That's disgusting. Ew, no, it's so blown out. It's terrible. I'm a cinematography major. Now though, I watch it, it's like I'm glad I daringly did this because it is a look, and I fully went for it. Does it work all the time? I don't know, but I tried. um, it's different than a lot of stuff nowadays, which I think a lot of people go for that washed out look now. But I was super into the high contrast. I still am. That was like the trick. I want to make it look more cinematic. Crush those blacks. Ooh. So this is obviously them just driving around the park over and over again. But I think again Dom did a fantastic job here as well. Is this still the same day? I think this is still the same day. Um, and so Dom was still in his mode, and it was great. This is the exposition of why he flipped out, because you have to explain why he flipped out on Allison with his friend talking to his friend. Corey, who's actually Sydney's brother in real life. Corey is, not Dom. Obviously, that would be weird. No, Corey, the one driving, is Sydney's brother in real life. He was really cool. I miss him. I wonder how he's doing. I haven't talked to him in a while. He was great. Um, and this is my old Jeep, which I wanted to make this sort of character in this film, because you have to foreshadow it breaking down and being a piece of trash. Because at the end of the film, when it doesn't start, when we get to that, you'll see it doesn't start. I had to have foreshadowing for that. So throughout the film, they're talking. There was a scene that we didn't shoot that I wrote in the script where they're trying to drive the Jeep back home, and it stalls, and it shows them pushing it while they're having a conversation about something, but we never shot that scene because of time, honestly. I think we cut a lot of stuff out because of time. That one we never shot because you have to foreshadow it. So this scene, actually, there's that one locker to the right which is opened. It is opened because there's a handy cam on a tripod shoved in there, which is what is picking up the audio. It transitions soon. I think at this moment it transitions to the audio from the handy cam that's inside that locker, which is why they stop right there in front of that locker, because that's where that handy cam is picking up their audio, because that was our microphone. That was essentially our wireless mic. um, I might have been either. I don't know whose locker that was. Maybe we got lucky and it was opened. But yeah, and I kind of like the way the lighting is here. You have the warm light coming in from the top, and you have the window lights coming from outside, slightly rimming him in the back. Obviously, totally intentional. Not. It just worked out like that. Yes, banging lockers. I did that a lot in high school because of how angry I'd get. So here's a cool dolly shot, which is we did with a tripod with dolly wheels on it. I just push it forward. And I like this shot in particular because it reveals things. It's one of those revealing things as it moves around her. Perfectly in sync, we have Jacob coming down. And now we're gonna have, what was her name? Clarity? Yeah. Meet with them. They were actually dating at the time. Right, they both of them were actually
It's a journal from this kid Connor.
in
I
a
needed some
legit
stories from these
relationship at
kids.
the
That's
time.
perfect. I could totally
So
use
that
this.
Figured it'd help you out there.
made
No,
things
no,
easier, I
seriously,
guess.
it would.
I don't
Thank
know.
you so much.
Um,
Someone hang out tonight?
Yeah, after this, I'm not
I
doing
think the
anything.
reason why I named her character Clarity was because Jem, right there, he made a film called Miles Away from Clarity. um, and there's a character in that film named Clarity, so because of that, I named this character Clarity. Obviously. Um, oh, I love the scene. Actually, the scene's fantastic. We shot this so many times. This is when Sydney here flips out on her, and I kept on thinking about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and the moment when the character finally flips out on the nurse, and that was like this moment. Now that I watch it, I wish that I let her actually get to
Don't you love it in chapter 29 when he
Clarity here. I had it where the other girls run up and grab her before she could reach her. As you can see here, she's gonna run up and they're all gonna grab her. But I mean, it looks fine. It works. It's intense. But in reality, their reaction time would not be that fast at all. In reality, Sydney here would totally reach Clarity. Selena? Serena. Serena was her name. Bad with remembering names, but her name was Serena, who played Clarity. Sydney would have reached her, and I wish I let that happen. There would have been like this epic choking scene, and everyone had to pull her off. If ever we made this film, that's what I'd do now. Uh, but they all actually really enjoyed shooting that, and I shot so many different angles. I think I shot 10 different angles of it, and we only used two. But I like that previous shot that you just saw with Sydney sitting there alone, which is very representative of how always feel continuously. Good times always. And now we have her big. Well, that was her action sequence. This is another big action sequence, and Sydney did such a freaking fantastic job. Like, she starts screaming, and just the way she was doing it just felt so intense. And like Sydney, really put her all in this film. And I kind of regret not working with her again after this because she really, again, put her all in the film and did her best and did a fantastic job.
What was that?
That girl, she's such a creep.
What? So what?
Like, she ran out of book
Oh
club
no,
today.
she's gonna blackmail
Oh my
me.
God, she
So,
put in the journal.
Well, what's the
You
matter?
know what that means?
this
That means she's
scene,
gonna blackmail me, and I'm going to get in so much trouble because that stupid
again, was
brat
was
wants to-
intense, and
Why
you're
is
gonna
she such a
notice how the
creep?
highlights are gonna get super blown out in the scene. It's already kind of blown out. But you gotta build up the suspense, build up the tension. It's Jem here is running until she runs. It's supposed to be more gradual, but just you couldn't get to it. Jem was so vicious in this scene. Both of them were great. Jem is just great as an asshole, and Sydney was fantastic at just this, all of this. It's so intense. Handheld camera, high shutter speed, screaming, so good. I want to do more stuff like this in my films now. I'd be too afraid someone will call the cops. We actually had a group of students in the park there watching while we were filming this, so we had a little audience. And I remember them clapping after we finished a take because of how great Sydney was. She's just freaking fantastic. She's good at screaming. She's good at screaming. But even moments like this, now it's calm. Now there's no screaming. Now we get to see her, really see her performance. Um, I think it's fantastic. I don't know. Maybe I'm a terrible judge of acting skills, but I thought it was fantastic. Um, Cause dumb person there throws the camera down, but you didn't break the card. Even though, I mean, he could have. You know what I should have had him do? I should have had him take the card out of the camera, chug the camera at the ground, and then eat the card. I should have done that. Because there's no point in the card being saved. Like, it's not like she has a. Oh, she has pictures of them on it, but it never comes back again. And she doesn't have the camera. So the card could have been totally destroyed. and Jem should have eaten it. That's how he should have destroyed it, obviously. He should have broken it in half and ate it. So this reveal is always kind of funny and hilarious 'cause it's so creepy. I thought I was being so smart with it. Oh, the camera moves around and reveal she's there. Ho ho ho. Visual storytelling. No, it's creepy. It's still creepy. But now we see those blacks are really crushed. We're really bringing up the contrast now. Ooh, we're really making the image all imperfect.
You sure?
Things are getting crazy, and now we have. This is the action part, you know. This is the end of the second act. This is it. This is sort of the climax. Not really. So in the scene, Dom here has the baseball bat. There's a scene that I wrote in the script originally where he's sitting in his room by himself, thinking about what to do, and he opens his closet or something, and a baseball bat falls down. And that was going to explain how he has a baseball bat in this scene. But we don't need that. It doesn't matter. He just has a friggin' baseball bat. How he has it? Yeah, he has it. Doesn't friggin' matter how. So, this was when we had so little time to shoot. So we did it as fast as possible. And of course, forced perspective. He was at a good distance from him. He didn't really hit him. You gotta use forced perspective. It looks like he's close, but he's not. So he swings the bat, and it looks real. He just added sound effects. And again, Dom was so good here, just screaming. Screaming at the top of his lungs. I want my journal back. Give me my damn journal. What's funny is this scene in college, I took a Pro Tools class, which is an audio class, and one of our assignments was to ADR a scene in a movie. So I used this scene because I was in college. I still hated this film. This was, I think, my senior year in college. I used this scene from this film, and I brought my college friends in to ADR the scene, and it was hilarious. It was so funny. They
Journal back.
They did a great job at making the scene freaking hilarious.
I'll tell you. I beat the shit out of Jacob.
No, you
I,
fucking
do I
beat
have
the
that
shit out of him.
ADR scene up anywhere?
A bat and
Maybe I'll put it on YouTube.
hour.
I'm not gonna find it. Don't know. But I love this scene here because this is both of them finally going through what they had to go through. They went into the deep, dark basement. You know, they dealt with the monster. They slayed the dragon, and now they could finally just release everything. You know, just release all of it. Everything they've held onto, all that pain and anger, and just scream it all out.
No. You fucking hate
That's what they're doing here.
Hey, Jacob.
Letting it all out. They're letting it go. This is Let It Go.
Jacob.
Not in song form.
fucking hate Jacob.
I fucking hate
So I really like how both of them
That son of a
did
bitch,
this, and we
Jacob.
shot this early in the morning. The sun is straight hitting them straight on, so it's really harsh. And look how blown out the sky is. That bench is it's bright. There's no information in that bench. It's totally blown out. It's obviously purposely done. Again, now I look back at it, and I really am glad I like it. It looks so contrasty. But back then, I remember
Make you feel better.
coloring the scene and being, oh, why did I blow it out so much?
I'm glad we did that.
Why did I decide to shoot it like this?
Jacob and Claire.
Because again, I was a cinematography major. You gotta make everything look pristine. You know, this is a mistake. I don't want. That was like my biggest fear. People are gonna think that this was all a mistake, but it wasn't. Maybe it was a little bit sometimes. Like there's some underexposed stuff which was a mistake, but well, that wasn't. That was supposed to be like that. But I mean, I was afraid back then people look at it as a mistake. This is fake money I think I got from LA. Someone was selling fake money in the street. And this is the one and only time I used it in a movie.
Yeah, just whenever
Yep,
you're done.
that's it. Never used it again.
Yeah, I just want to go to the mall for
I think I still have it somewhere.
a while.
So Dom goes out and buys a gift for Sydney, or I should call him by their character. Connor goes out and buys a gift for Allison. I remember writing this into the film thinking, I mean, that's expensive. He buys a camera for someone. Would someone spend that much money on someone else? Yes.
Nothing. What are you
They would,
Oh, I was just,
because I would, because
just around
I
the
did,
neighborhood,
Okay.
I guess.
and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I was in like
It's
random
crazy when you
school,
actually
but, I felt really bad because like I got
really
my
care
joint
for
back,
someone, even if they don't
but
reciprocate your feelings,
the camera
which is,
was
obviously my case all the
so
time.
yeah,
It's always
I got you a
unrequited,
new
but
one.
you still care for them. You still want to
You bought this for me?
No, I stole
get
it
them
actually.
things.
You'd be surprised. It's very simple.
But back then, when I was writing this, like, I don't know how real this is, but
Oh my
I want to do
god.
a montage like in the
Thank
movie
you
Once,
so
where they're
much.
filming each other on a handy cam.
God.
And this is a way of
Like,
doing
when
it.
did you do that?
So yeah, here we go. Here it is. There it is. So I just literally had them. This is probably the most fun we had on the shoot. I gave them, and it seemed the most fun Dom was having on the shoot also. That's the handycam, and that was actually the handycam I used in high school to shoot all my. If you watched on my YouTube channel, Memories, my high school feature film, I think about like 80% of it was shot on this handycam that you see them holding. That's you see footage from right now. So anyways, I gave them the camera and we just ran around and had them. I don't even know. I just told them to goof off. And Dom, I think, is the best at just doing goofy things like this. So none of this was planned. It's just I don't know, do goofy things, have fun, film each other. You're weirdos. You're weirdos. That's the title of the film. Define different. Anyways, be weird. And I think they had a fantastic like that. I mean, that's classic, you know. You gotta do that. But I didn't tell them to do that. They did it. They just did it, and it was great. And that's Sydney's real mom. And this was Dom was having a birthday party, right? So I just filmed him at his birthday party. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the music, right? The music right now in the background is by Steve Wolf. I used a lot of Steve Wolf because I met him. I never actually physically met him in real life. We remember I went to a website or something, and his music was playing, and I found his contact info. This was during my freshman year in college, and I contacted him, and I wanted to use one particular song of his I heard at the end of my short film. And ever since then, he's given me full permission to use any of his songs. So for this film, which is I guess my second film after my short I did in college, I I took advantage of that like crazy and used all of his music, not all of it, but majority of his songs in this film, and they fit perfectly. I love his music. I like the style of it. And I've been using his music in all of my films since, even my most recent short film. His music is in it. And I think I'm gonna continue doing that. That might as well be my thing. Even if it's in the background as some diegetic sound playing over a radio, it's gonna be a Steve Wolf song. Not that anyone notices, but I'm really grateful. I would like to meet him one day in real life. So this is your cliche library scene, seeing each other through the bookshelf. I remember I thought I was so smart and clever doing this, writing this in and shooting it, and I realized, and my mom said, "That's so cliche," and I was thinking to myself, "You're right, it is cliche. This movie sucks." But I thought it was cool. I wanted to do this. I just wanted this interaction between both of them, where you have the books in the foreground separated. It's just visually really cool looking. This is the only reason why I want to do it. When they're walking, you have like foreground elements moving while they're moving. There's depth, there's layers. It's great. And like they're talking in the conversation, and suddenly they reach a point where they have to come together to talk. So what's funny about this is obviously we did not get permission to shoot in the library. This is my town's public library. We just went in there and I said, let's shoot in there for as long as we can, and if we get kicked out, we get kicked out. So we got one good take in here. I think we were trying to do another one because I wanted them to kind of get closer together because we don't have to be so far apart, because we're just using the mic and the camera, which is why the audio sucks in the scene. I had to boost it up so much because they were speaking they're speaking quietly because it was a library. But this is the only good, because the second take we tried doing, someone came in and stopped us. Like, do you have permission to shoot in the library?
Here we go.
And I said,
It'd be perfect.
nope.
I'll come hang out every day.
And I said, you gotta leave. So we left.
Then
We got one good thing,
make a film.
and we
Let's do
left.
it. We'll
And that
get
was it.
rich. We'll buy my mom a big house.
Yeah, this is it. This is the
Bring Jay.
one good take. So this was them, fantasizing a little bit about escaping together and traveling together,
I wish.
Wow.
which is always nice to fantasize about sometimes. Actually, I still do all the time. Who am I kidding?
3 days.
But it's great, like seeing two characters do it together and they build upon it. And I love those moments when you're with your friends and you talk about something and you just start improvising and building upon it. There was actually a
It's gonna
scene I
make things
cut
Harder for me to leave.
out of this cut of the film, with them walking across the
Okay.
cricket field, talking about the flight and everything. Mainly because the audio was so bad.
Don't mention it.
So you don't need it. This is fine. She's leaving. Originally in the script I wrote it where they kiss, but I already knew while we were filming that they both called the film to find awkward, and they didn't. Dom particularly did enjoy it, but so I said, you don't have to kiss. We won't do that. So it ends like that with them a nice hug, which I could use right about now, to be quite honest. But I like this that nice tracking shot with the tripod Steadicam. That was fun to do. And again, this particular thing of them running across the field, that wasn't planned. They actually said they wanted to do it. Like, we gotta run across this field. Well, yes, let's do it. And what's even better is a cloud comes over right here and leaves this epic shadow and highlights them in this tiny thin line, like their own little world together before it fades away. I love it. Perfect. You can't plan that. We didn't have, I didn't tell the clouds to come in. It just happened like that. And that's wonderful. Again, that's like things like that particular thing that happened in this film is precious. You can't replicate that. And as much as I hated this film at the time, for years, many years,
This morning for some reason.
stuff like that I always, knew was precious and I appreciated it. Like that shot was cool. And now finally feeling comfortable, yeah, showing it, you could finally see that. So this scene, both Dom and Corey here, it was so difficult finding a schedule to get them together. Every single time Dom was available, Corey wasn't. Every single time Corey was available, Dom wasn't. So in this scene, they were supposed to be together talking to each other,
What the hell are you still doing here?
but for the life of me, I could not get them together. And the summer was ending.
Just make it hard.
People were going back to school. College was going to start up again. I needed to finish this damn film because that was my goal. I was going to finish this film. I was going to write this film and finish it in one summer, which is like, what, 2 months, 3 months?
So you're just friends.
Ridiculous. And I somehow did it, but we couldn't get them together, so which is why all of this is like a montage of Corey building the rocket while Dom is sitting there. And this scene here, which we saw in the beginning of the film, they're not together. They are not together at all. That's why there's no shots of them together. It just cuts back and forth because I could not. And that was the most frustrating part, was how am I going to make this work? Because the lighting is completely different. It was overcast when we shot Corey and not overcast when we shot Dom. But luckily, with the style of the film, blowing out the highlights and making it all look imperfect, I was able to hide it by really doing that. And then it kind of looks like it works. Maybe.
Her and her family moved.
And the timing, because you could tell there's some of the street lights are coming on behind Corey if he moves his head. There it is. So, it was difficult, but I think I made it match decently.
It's the same thing, man.
No one's really questioned it. Then again, I haven't shown this film to many people at all.
You're just gonna let her go.
But
You're
that
thinking
was
you're just
tough.
gonna
I'm trying to
forget
match
all
it, but
about this?
now that I
She's
told you,
gonna
you could
go.
totally tell.
That's it?
It's completely different. So Dom had to act to no one. Corey had to act to no
wants you
one.
there. After all
They're
you've
not
been
there,
through,
but they are there.
she's
Who
gonna
knows?
leave, and she
But you're
doesn't
never
want
going to see them together again. Because he couldn't get them together.
Then again,
That's just how it is.
if I would
Oh,
miss
and by
you,
the way, this whole story, he's telling Dom about this this girl he used to like who moved to France. That's real. That's me. There's a girl that I used to like that in my childhood that I had a huge crush on. My first crush ever. And her parents, her mom got a job in Paris or something. Or her job, they had to move to Paris, I think. It was not that I think I know. They moved to Paris. I remember drawing them a picture of the Eiffel Tower to give to them. Um, I really liked her a lot.
Right.
Um,
Piece of shit
yeah,
car.
but she moved there,
The bikes.
and that was that. And that is exactly the story Corey tells Dom in this film, because that's a real story. So that's that. Um, and now he's got to race back together. And we're getting to my favorite part of the film, the ending, because it's all over. But also what it means to me. It's, um, so of course I got to do this whole thing. He's got to get to her before she leaves, And I wrote in the script. It was more epic in the script. He rides throughout all these neighborhoods. He rides past all these kids and dodges a bunch of things. We're not gonna have the budget to do that. Luckily, this one day these kids are playing basketball outside, or tossing the ball to each other. So I remember I just walked up to them and told them, "You want to be in a movie? Could you do this and this and this?" And they just added them to the film. That was it. This is the one old film of mine that I kind of am intrigued to remake, maybe, at some point, in some form, because everything is sort of there. The structure is there, but it is what it is. And now this is when you start seeing the highlights blown out like crazy, just burning the screen in a way, and obviously all thematically to what's going on in the film. Because now he's trying to make it on time to see Allison, tell her how he feels, and just like me, he never gets to do that.
Allison!
And will regret it for the rest of his life. And I let this scene play out really long, and I was really this scene. I spent a lot of time editing this scene and trying to figure out how long to let it stay and play out. But also was look at how blown out, how contrasty. Wait till he turns. Look at that. It's so.
Allison!
The whole left side of his face, our left, which would be his right side of his face, it's just so. It's glowing. It's glowing. But again, at the time, I wish I didn't do that.
Allison!
But now I look at it and so, you know what? It works. And this was such a burning hot day when we were filming this. It was like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is when we were filming it, around like 30 Celsius. So it was hot. So I really tried to accentuate that with the heat, with the lighting and the exposure by blowing highlights out. But here's the thing about mini DV is it doesn't look too bad. It glows in a way, kind of. Maybe not. Maybe it looks terrible. But it's all for the style. And this is why this ending means a lot to me, because it doesn't work out, and he ends up alone. And who knows if they're going to reconnect, if they're going to keep in touch. I never really kept in touch with my friend that left. She eventually moved back, and now she's married and has kids. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here in a room talking to a microphone about a film I made 12 years ago. Who knows if anyone's ever going to even listen to this. But that's why this ending means so much to me, because it's everything to me. It is me. Well, you look back at old photos, and that's all you have, because it happened, and that's at least one thing you have, is that it happened. And he's alone. So the funny thing about this is, when we're going to cut to the wide shot soon, the reason why I had to make it black and white, which works perfectly, but it was actually something I needed to do, because this shot here, we shot earlier in the film when Allison and Connor meet, when she walks to him in the park in the beginning of the film, the first act. This is the shot from that. And luckily, I let it linger for a while with him by himself before she walked in, just in case, because I always knew this was going to be the last shot of the film. So we came back to shoot this actual last shot, and that long bench that Dom is sitting on right now was gone. This is how cursed this film was. We came back, the bench was gone. It's like, what? It's still gone. It's not. It didn't return. It was gone. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And Dom was joking. He said she took the bench with her, but literally, it was freaking gone. And I was thinking to myself, this shot was so important to me. It still is. And I was so miserable. I was like, I cannot believe it. And I thought, and I realized, oh wait, when we shot the other scene here, I left the camera rolling for a while without, Allison walking in, the character Allison walking in. So that means I could use that shot at the end, but he's wearing a different color shirt in that scene. Oh my goodness. I guess I'm gonna have to make it black and white. So I made it black and white, and it works. Because that's it. It's the end. All the color's gone, and he's alone. Because that's just how it works out. It's just him. Now, I forgot to mention in the story that Corey's telling, obviously, about the girl he used to like, which is my story. That was the first time that I started this whole Easter egg thing where I mentioned Paris or France in every single one of my films. It started in this film. I guess just as a fun Easter eggy thingy. That's just to throw out everything that I've made. So yeah, that was the start of it. So and the next film that I made in college was on 16mm as a short, and it was titled An Amour. Hopefully that'll be up on YouTube soon, and I'll probably do a commentary for that also, because these are kind of therapeutic, I guess. And maybe I'm hoping someone watches and cares, because this is all just me, I guess, trying to reach out, or all these films in general, as I said in the beginning, my thesis papers of examining relationships, and this year was the first one, and the next one, the short on 16mm, which you'll hopefully see soon, was yet again another examination of relationships between younger children, which is something that I pondered about and went through, I guess, but never followed through because she moved away to Paris. Yes, that's just the way my life is written, and that's where I am now. If you made it this far, thank you so very much. I appreciate it a lot, whoever you are.